Crystal Maiden here, and welcome to part 9 of Minish Cap. And I mentioned before that it may be possible that they originally planned to have Wind Waker be the game that takes place right after this in the timeline. And the reason I'm saying this is because Hyrule Castle has 3 unused images to it. And they're stained glass windows showing Jabba and Valu and the Dooku tree from Wind Waker. They're visible halfway into the Hyrule Castle map test in the throne room. The 3 pearls from Wind Waker were also not used. And this makes sense considering that Minish Cap is before Wind Waker chronologically. In fact, Minish Cap is even before Ocarina of Time. This is yet another sword skill that I have no idea why you have to learn it. It feels like, for the most part, the sword skills don't really add anything. The sword teachers don't really add anything. They're just there to artificially withhold sword skills from you that you would have had from the very start in plenty of other games. And the sword beam that is the Peril Beam is useful barely ever because you're never going to be that low on health. And if you are, you're going to be that low on health for like 2 seconds before you drink a potion. But the one that has full hearts, I hate that puzzle with every fiber of my being. This is a perfect illustration of why block puzzles suck. Because you can't tell what block can be pushed in what way. So it's pure trial and error. So now you can perform your spin attack at the rate that you should have performed it in the first place. And here's Tingle from Wind Waker. Actually, he was first introduced in Majora's Mask, but whatever. He's annoying. He's a lot more of a problem in Wind Waker. Right here, like in this game, he's actually kind of helpful. He and his brothers are pretty useful because they actually tell you how many different kinds of fusions you have left before you fuse them all. You have to talk to him. I think I have to talk to them multiple times in order to get them to tell you that though. And Tingle has the most annoying personality. The rest of them aren't really that bad. I hate the way Tingle and his brothers look. And I think a lot of people do, and that's why they're so infamous. But he's not really that annoying to deal with in this game, aside from his dialogue. And the Minish I dealt with at the end of the previous part talked about how there was a watery area that looked sort of suspicious. And I don't really know how he knew that because how do any Minish get anywhere in this game? You need to unshrink yourself in order to get to that water area from where that Minish is. So how is that Minish capable of venturing all the way to that water area to know that exists in the first place? In fact, how does that Minish even get his food and stuff? Because you can't really navigate the overworld that well as a Minish because even tall grass blocks your path. And you might have noticed earlier in the game that you have Forest Minish traveling to Melory's Mines and Hyrule Town. But I honestly have no idea how they do that because it's impossible to navigate all of the overworld as a Minish. You're forced to unshrink yourself. So how do they do it? Do they have shortcuts that Link is not able to access? Like, how did Library get... Because, spoiler alert, he leaves the library at some point. I might as well mention that now. The Elder Library, he leaves the library and goes to Lake Hylia at some point. How does he get there? Like, how he gets from all the way in Hyrule Town to Lake Hylia is beyond me. I do love how fast you can swim as a Minish here. Playing the Ocarina indoors doesn't really do anything. Even if you play in a dungeon, it doesn't warp you to the entrance of the dungeon. Because in Link's Awakening, you would play a specific song on the Ocarina, and you would warp to the beginning of the dungeon. This is the first top-down Zelda since Zelda 1. to have it so that you can't warp to the entrance of the dungeon from anywhere you want in the dungeon just by using an item. I don't know why they removed that convenience. The handheld games added so many conveniences, but why did they take out that one? Especially since the dungeons are so big. I hate ice floors. I hate ice floors with every fiber of my being. Your controls are so screwed up in them. You constantly slide forward. Ugh! And then he knocks you back into the pit. And normally when you fall into a bottomless pit, you respawn from exactly where you fell. But for some reason, they don't do that with the ice floors. Why? That's so stupid. It's such a terrible decision. You can swim across the shallow water in order to get here. It's pointless coming here when you're not in Minish form. Oh great, more of these. Because we loved it so much the first time, didn't we? For some reason, attacking when you're on the ice floor sliding around completely cancels out your momentum and you stop. So why can't you just remain stopped after you finish attacking? Why do you have to keep sliding? This is horrible. I have a hard time deciding which is worse. The ice floor of Link to the Past and the ice floor here. Because at least you don't move extremely slowly and like one pace at a time when you're on the ice floor like in Link to the Past. At least you can keep on going, but you just slide around. That makes more sense for ice. Yeah, see what I mean about backtracking? And this house is literally only there to give you more Kinstone fusions. It's pointless otherwise. How does green mineral water give you the blue Piccolite? There's no reason at all that you should ever get the blue potion because it doesn't restore all of your health and you don't have a magic meter. This game, like in most Zelda games, it's the red potion that's the inferior one. But in this game, the red potion is the best one, and you unlock it later. Although it's stupid that you have to unlock it. I really would have preferred it if it was just available right from the get-go, like in Link to the Past. But the game is not really that easy to get a game over in, so there's really no reason that you're going to buy the blue potion before unlocking the red one anyways. Again, how did he plant that bean? How did he get all the way up there? I hate how long it takes to climb up the vine. It's the most boring part of the game for me, and you have to do it multiple times. At least you get good goodies from getting up here though. But then, because for some bullshit reason you can't warp up here, you have to climb all the way back down. Yeah, that's great design. Even though you're very clearly outside, you can't warp with the flute. Why? You're always guaranteed to get a red rupee if you dig up this specific patch of land. And apparently, it's a glitch that you can actually sometimes get 2 red rupees from here. Because that's happened to me plenty of times when I was grinding for rupees unnecessarily. And I, for some reason, because you can dig up treasure by just digging around randomly. Although you can also dig up beetles, and so you can have a huge amount of beetles on the screen and cause slowdown. But you can't really dig up red rupees. So I don't know why I didn't realize that it was a glitch that you can sometimes have 2 red rupees from digging next to your house. It's a good Easter egg, I guess. I mean, you really have no way of figuring that out on your own, unless you randomly experiment with the dig gloves. I think they're called the mole mitts. It's pretty easy to forget what they're called, because you never really meet any actual moles in this game. It's not like in Skyward Sword where there's a race of extremely annoying mole people, and so you can easily remember that they're called mole mitts. But I don't think they're called mole mitts in that game. I was pretty surprised that they had mole mitts in Skyward Sword, because I was like, That's another thing from Minish Cap that they brought into it. Because when I first saw Girahim in Skyward Sword, my immediate reaction was, that's Vati! Because Girahim has white hair, and he's an albino, just like Vati in this game. Although otherwise his design is completely different, and so is his mannerisms. So that was pretty disappointing, because I really want the Vati in this game to make an appearance in a 3D Zelda game. Because in later Zelda games, Vati makes another appearance, but he's this really lame, almost mindless monster. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. And also, he's inexplicably a wind sorcerer, when he was never exclusively associated with wind in this game. I really wish they brought him back for a 3D Zelda game, the way he is in Minish Cap. And I'd say that they won't because they've forgotten about Minish Cap, but the fact that they have mole mitts and a sort of gust jar in Skyward Sword sort of implies that they haven't forgotten about Minish Cap. Which is good, because this is a good game. I love how many pieces of hearts you can find in these places. Swiftblade has a lot of brothers. Like, do you ever see any character in the Zelda franchise that has that many siblings at once? What compelled their mother to have that many children? This is the kind of stone fusion that you really want to get, because the reward for this is well worth it. I think the amount of rubies that the masks drop when they drop reset if you save and reload your file. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but ugh, why do you have to enter it from the north? That's so stupid. But anyways, every time you reload your file, Ezla will automatically talk to you and give you a hint to remind you of what you're supposed to do next. That's really unnecessary. The soldiers are walking around Hyrule Town because, well, we saw it a few parts ago, Vati possessed the king and told the soldiers to start looking for the light force everywhere. And now we're back to this minigame. I couldn't beat this minigame all the way before, because you're required to have the flippers to beat this minigame in full. Because eventually you're gonna have to go across the river to get the cuckoo. Because if you just take the long way, then you won't be able to beat the minigame in time. The minigame seems pretty harmless right now, but it gets much worse. I don't feel like you dash nearly fast enough with the Pegasus boots. Why can't you just dash as fast as you did in Link to the Past? I would have preferred it if you dashed as fast as you move when you're on fire. And again, you have to equip the Pegasus boots to the item slot, just like in Link's Awakening, to use it. It's not like in A Link to the Past where you can hold down the R button and start dashing at literally any time. I don't know why they didn't do that for this game. Instead, when you hold down the R button when you're just standing around, Link will grab onto something that isn't there. Why can't he just have that as the Pegasus button? It's actually pretty good that you can dash without having your sword out by not having your sword equipped. Because if you have your sword out and you dash towards the cuckoos, then you'll attack them. That dog is really annoying because he stays in your path and prevents you from getting to the north side of town and getting here from the north side of town. So he just blocks your path saying, I just wanted some attention. And the reason I went into a building there was because I rage quit the minigame. Because there are some minigames of this variety where if you don't collect the cuckoos in a very exact order, then you pretty much render them impossible to beat. So it's a good idea to collect the cuckoos that are furthest away from you first, and then collect the cuckoos that are the closest to Anju last. Because it doesn't take very long to go from Anju to a cuckoo near her and back, so you can just constantly go back and get multiple cuckoos. And I love how another thing that makes Hyrule Town feel so alive is that some of the NPCs change where they are. Oh god damn it, I didn't mean to throw him north. Oh, this better not cost me the... I did not mean to dash into that. Oh, this better not cost me the minigame. Oh, fuck you! God damn it, Anju. Really? Ugh, now I have to do it all over again. That's fun. And another reason that this minigame sucks is because you have to be standing in a very precise, specific position to pick up the cuckoos. It's not very lenient. If you're standing in the wrong spot, then Link will just grab onto air, and you'll have wasted your time because then you have to wait for him to stop making his grabbing animation. Why can't it be more lenient? Why can't you have a larger hitbox range for picking up stuff? See? I'm doing it again, and again, and again! Why? And why don't they remove the NPCs from town when you do this? I mean, it's good that the NPCs change position depending on how you progress in the plot. That makes it feel more like time is actually passing. Because as time passes, buildings get unlocked. Like, you can go into the inn finally. And you can go into shops because they're finally open. But just screw that minigame.